Good morning, everyone, from the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly. I'm Fred Kemp. I'm President and CEO of the Atlantic Council, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to this event hosted by the Atlantic Council's Africa Center. I'm honored to introduce our special guest, His Excellency Mohamed Bazoum, the President of the Republic of Niger. President Bazum has extensive public sector experience, beginning with his days as a school teacher, his co-founding of the Nigerian Party for Democracy and Socialism, and his election to the National Assembly in 1993. He previously served as Minister of Foreign Affairs and Minister of State for the Interior, Public Security, Decentralization, and Customary and Religious Affairs. And in 2021, President Bazoum was elected to become the President of Niger. His inauguration marked the first peaceful transition of power from one democratically elected leader to another in Niger. Let me repeat that. His inauguration marked the first peaceful transition of power from one democratically elected to another in Niger. This conversation comes at a key moment for Niger and the Sahel, with France's withdrawal from the region, the escalation of jihadist offensives, and the world still reeling from COVID and the economic consequences and blowback of Putin's war in Ukraine. Strong leadership is needed now more than ever. This conversation comes at a moment rich in diplomatic events. Countries will once again come together to discuss these critical issues at COP27 in Egypt and the US-Africa Leader Summit organized by President Biden later on this year. President Bazoum, your country occupies a leading role in a region marked by both political instability and immense opportunity. Your voice is critical at this moment, and we greatly appreciate the opportunity to hear your strategic vision and expectations of the international community, including the United States and the United Nations. This timely conversation will be led by the Africa Center's Senior Director, Ambassador Ramayad, and Senior Fellows Michael Shirkin and Abdul Salam Bello. And with that, over to you, Ambassador Yad.
Thank you very much, President Fred Kemp, President and CEO of the Atlantic Council, for these very warm welcoming remarks to His Excellency, President of the Republic of Niger, Mr. Mohamed Bazoum. President Bazoum, welcome to the Atlantic Council. We are here at the St. Regis in New York, the day before the opening of the General Assembly of the United Nations. It's a great honor for us to have you on this stage. We will be three to interview him, you, Abdul Salam Bello, who is here with us. He's an Atlantic Council Senior Fellow, a member, esteemed member of the Africa Center. Michael Shurkin, Dr. Michael Shurkin, who will be virtually from Washington, D.C., because our headquarters are in Washington, D.C. He's our new Africa Center Senior Fellow. He will speak for the first time in our event. So welcome and congratulations to him, and me, Senior Director of the Atlantic Council's Africa Center. So we are going to start, Mr. President, with a topic that is very important to you, education for girls. We know how this question matters for Niger, for Africa, and for the world. We know the importance of women in communities. And in Niger in particular, it's something really challenging and in the meantime, impactful. We also know that during your stay at the General Assembly, you will point at this topic very strongly. Can you tell us what is your strategy to improve education for girls in your country?
Thank you very much, Ms. Yamayad, thank you for the privilege you're giving me for inviting me to this discussion. Your
think tank aujourd'hui.
With your think tank today.
La question de
The question of education, as you very well said, is crucial for Niger. I'm going to give some numbers to talk about this. We are the country, I'm going to repeat this during this session quite often. As long as this is the country with the highest the demographic growth, almost 4%. Another important number is the percentage of women, which is each woman has 7 children. So it is the highest rate, world rate of births. A study has just been made in the region of Zander, with the highest density in Niger, that showed that 50% of girls had a child before they were 15 years old. So we're facing a reality with those statistics. So we feel responsible as politicians, and we need to face this reality and find solutions, because from this situation there are this is a very difficult situation. It's very difficult for the state to set up public services, especially in education, employment, and health. The solution, there's no immediate solution, unfortunately, but there's a long-term solution, and the solution is education. We need to start by implementing an educational policy that faces the reality. And you asked me the question of knowing what is the strategy I'm going to implement. The first strategy will be to improve the educational system, because those statistics are just a symptom of the failure of the educational system. If we had had a performing educational system, we would have avoided that situation. So we are insisting particularly on what we noticed on our educational system. The first thing we have identified is the bad quality of the teachers. We need to rethink our teachers' training through measures we are designing, which consist of improving the level of instruction of children who we are training to become teachers. That's the first measure. So we are improving the level by 3 years. Second measure, we're changing the curriculum in the teachers' training, so that we can be sure that at the end we will have a performing result. Up to now, many teachers who intervene and who train have a very precarious status. They are hired randomly, and they are in such a precarious situation that they don't expect to have a career in this context. Our initiative from now on will be all by keeping those some of these people on the staff on the ground. We need to recruit more, and we need to make sure that those people who are being trained need to become part of the state staff so that they have a more stable, comfortable situation so that they can expect to have a teaching career. So that's one of the aspects of our strategy concerning what we call the quality of the teaching offer, concerning the quantity also, because it's true that we have a schooling rate that is very nominal. We are going to amplify the possibility to go to school for all children, creating the necessary conditions for that. And our strategy consists of building classrooms in hard materials with a lower cost than what we're being practicing now. There's a team that's working on that, an architectural team who's working on that. And then since we will have improved the quality, the teachers' quality, they will offer better quality teaching to children who will give the children real skills so that they don't drop out. But we have noticed that in the rural areas, since our country is very large, there's also a large density of population density. We don't have schools in all villages. We have elementary schools, but we don't have middle schools. So we have the rural middle schools, but this is very inconvenient because children come from villages which are 40, 30 kilometers, 20 kilometers away. So they don't know anybody in the villages where the middle school is. So very often they drop out. And that's a problem for the girls, because a mother who has her girl 20 kilometers away in a village, staying at a person's that doesn't have the optimal conditions in order to go to school, will have the tendency to take the girl out of school. And that is why a lot of kids leave school when they're 13, 14-year-olds and get married. And the idea we've had is to build boarding schools for young girls. Ideally, we would have done it for both boys and girls. They all need it, but not having such a possibility, we have started with an option which of making boarding schools for girls. When we make these boarding schools and bring the girls who come from the villages near the rural school, we ensure their security and comfort so that they can go to school and study. We allow them to stay during the 4 years of middle school. Their parents don't need to worry. They have better comfort conditions that they had in their families, and then they will stay. They will acquire skills, and they will have other professional attitudes. Sorry to interrupt you. So you're talking about making boarding schools for girls, and the infrastructure of schools is very important in Nigeria. Do you have support of investors? I've come here to raise awareness. So I'm going to repeat this as many times as possible at every meeting I have. I've come here just to talk about this. I'm not here only for the UNGA. I have come for all the activities that have to do with education, which is the most important for me today. So we will free state resources. We're going to indebt ourselves with all those who will give us loans so that we can build the boarding schools. And we have asked help to all our partners, our bilateral cooperation partners, and multilateral partners. I would like during the speech at the the UNGA plead for this. It is not, you cannot be sorry for the Sahel and talk about terrorism and violence in Sahel when we know that that is just the symptom of the failure of the educational system. And if we really wish to do something about insecurity in Sahel, we need to invest in the future of Sahel, and the futures of Sahel is the future of those many children I'm talking about. And so the school infrastructure are needed.
Education, infrastructure, and for those children, we think about youth employment. And all these young children who become adults who will be on the market, on the labor market, these matter so important of youth employment. What kind of jobs could you provide them to convince them to stay in Niger, to convince them to serve their country, to convince them that your action will be a solution for this problem of youth unemployment in your country?
Le problème de l'emploi des jeunes est un problème également extrêmement compliqué pour des pays
careers or jobs for the young right now is extremely complicated. A lot of young men, along with older people, have not been well educated, and this is why there is this greater amount of younger people who can go in the ways of violence that I mentioned earlier, and in the Sahel context, for example. If education, with education, things are simple. We only need to have a certain amount of resources and take into account the things that I've mentioned already. It's going to take a little while before we get results. At the optimal result for jobs, it's a little bit more complicated. But what are we saying within the framework of the presentation I am giving now? We are saying that we are a cultural country with, for 80% of the population makes their money with agriculture. However, it is a very rudimentary, very basic agriculture that does not really offer careers and jobs for the young people. One of the possibilities that we looked at is to modernize the agriculture by using the potential, the water, hydraulic potential with irrigation. We are going to create agro-industrial ports using each potential of the various areas of our country, and we will invest publicly and it will be public funds and private funds, while putting the emphasis on the investment that can be made to give some added value, and that will enable the young people to remain in the country and undertake activities that they know how to work aside from and receive the basic formation for training for those. And also we would like to talk about unemployment and their jobs. It is the promotion of agriculture through modernizing it that will today help.
Niger is a very rich country. You stress the importance of agriculture to provide jobs to young Nigerians, of course. But we also know that it's crucial to attract the foreign investors in your country so they can provide jobs to the private sector industry. I mean, everything around international investment. But to do so, they need to be secured. You need a secure environment to host these companies, these foreign companies. So now, as you can understand it, we can now open a new chapter around security issues And if you allow me, Mr. President, I would like to give the floor to Dr. Michael Shrokin, who is our Africa Center Senior Fellow at the Atlantic Council. He is, of course, since the Atlantic Council is based in Washington, D.C., he will speak from Washington, D.C. Dr. Shrokin, welcome at the St. Regis in New York. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for being willing to speak with us and to take the time to speak with us. For myself, speaking for myself, this is a profound honor, and I'm sure for all of us. What I'd like to talk to you about is the security situation. As you know better than we do, the situation in Gao and Menaka, just across the border, is getting very bad. So I would like to know how you view what's going on in Gao and Menaka, and how how Niger can best protect itself from what's happening in Mali.
Vous aurez constaté que depuis
You will notice that since almost 3 years, 3 full years, we haven't been attacked. No violent attack was committed as it may have happened at the beginning of 2020 or end of 2019 and the prior years on this, around that part of the territory with the borders with Mali. This is because, or thanks to the fact that we put in place a system that drew conclusions and learnings from our defeats of 2019 and 2018. And we have our armed forces positioned so that they are no longer victims of mass attacks, as was the case previously. And in the end, I believe that we will have undoubtedly impose a strength that protects us from the possibilities of seeing the situation degrading more and more when it comes to the border with Mali. In other words, the area of Gao and Menaka. You are a well-advised observant because we indeed do not have to do anything on that side of the border to the same threats that used to be. And this is because of the way we decided to position our armed forces. We are building military posts on base that are going to make them extremely strong and untakeable, and this will leverage our power, and this will, I believe, make us insensitive to the attacks that we were the victims of it previously.
That helps a lot, and it actually makes a great deal of sense given what I know of Nigerian security dispositions on the Niger side of the border. I was wondering if I could speak to you about Barkhane and about how to manage relations with France so as to avoid the mistakes that the Malian government made, and then also to make sure that one can retain the benefits of French assistance, but without destabilizing Niger's politics. Given that the French presence and French activities are seen, they're not well received by a large portion of the population.
As far as how Nigerian population perceive the French cooperation, military cooperation with France, let me say that I'm not totally in agreement with what you just said. So there isn't a large part of the population that doesn't appreciate what we could do with France. If that was the case, I wouldn't have accepted for Bakan to be deployed in Niger. I am elected by the people, and just like any government as such, I am very sensitive to what the population, the majority of my people can think. And I am very comfortable with the appreciation of the opinion of Niger and the policy I've been leading, the politics that I have. I was talking to you about the relationship, the presence of Barkhane in this area will actually contribute to leverage this relationship, and that is why we are unbreachable on our side, because we have on our side, thanks to Barkhane, that was missing up till now, and our enemies know it. So what is important for Nigerians is, believe me, is safety. Believe me, every time populations are submitted to pressure and tension because of lack of safety, they ask for everything. It's for us to drop everything to make them safe. So this is the most precious that we can give to the population. And so we are in a relationship where we have the Barkhane stream in the area of Tillabéri at the border of Mali, so that our positioning has improved and our immunity is reinforced. And this is what is the most important for the population. Nothing else. Yesterday, I authorized, there was a protest in the town of Niamey for people who protest against France. They had 300 young people who screamed at the top of their lung. But I do not believe that 300 young people represents the greater majority of the Nigerian population. The Nigerians want safety, and we are a government, a legitimate government, a democratically elected government, and we have the latitude and have the relationship with all the possible partners so that we can guarantee safety and security with Nigerians, and we are doing it, believe me.
One question that's on the minds of people here in Washington, D.C., which is, what exactly can the United States government do to help Niger thrive?
Ils peuvent faire beaucoup de choses dans tous les domaines.
They can do many things in all areas.
Maybe on the security aspects.
Okay.
We'll talk about the development aspects with Abdul later.
OK. Si c'est... Écoutez, nous faisons déjà beaucoup de choses avec les Américains, avec le gouvernement américain.
With
dans
Americans,
le domaine de la sécurité.
and safety and security, we do things in information, and it's very important, crucial.
Nous avons une assistance importante
But we also need help with the U.S., with the reinforcement of the abilities of our armed forces. We benefit from training, of great quality training from and the equipment that comes with this great training, and this is remarkable, wonderful. Every time Americans trained special forces in Niger and that they were deployed on the ground, it made a tremendous difference, and we know that. So we are very thankful with the work we are doing. We are receiving equipment. I can't say that it's enough. It's not enough with what we need, but it is for some areas. And I will meet this afternoon with the Secretary of State, Mr. Blinken, and I will tell him, thank you very much, but it's not enough, because our needs are very important indeed, even though the American government is really helping us.
Michael, do you have an additional question?
Is there any specific assistance that you think that you would like to ask Secretary Blinken for?
Non, de façon spécifique.
Not in a specific manner. I need more reinforced truck, but I've already been given some, but I need more. I need helicopters. I will ask him to give us more. And I haven't been given any, but I'm going to be asking for some. The American government is donating a certain number of airplanes with reinforce our armed forces, and we are very thankful for that. And that's it. But we need more ability, more trucks and ways of arming ourselves. But the American government is definitely on our side and helping with this challenge. And it's not only the Sahel challenge, it's the entire, it's under the responsibility of the entire world and the United States because of the weight of the US in the world. When we have a possibility to exchange, of course, we do tell what we need. And because we are friends, we tell them everything we need.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Michael, would you like to ask another question, or you are good? I don't want to let you frustrated, so you can go
sure.
ahead.
One question that is on a lot of people's minds is the influence of Russia in Niger's domestic politics or the region through influence operations. I believe that the French are prone to overstate the importance of Russian influence. But I do think there is something to it. And I was wondering if you could share your estimation of the importance of Russian influence.
To be honest, I don't perceive something important to really talk about or to denounce. I imagine, based on what our Western friends are saying, the French and other, we perceive certain activities on social media that come apparently from the actions of the Russian government. But in Niger, anyway, this is not a sensitive point that would need our analysis or attention.
Thank you.
Very much, Mr. President. Thank you, Dr. Shoukin, for your first co-moderation. And welcome again to the Africa Center Atlantic Council. Thank you, Michael. So we are going to jump from Michael to Abdul Salam Bello, precisely on this topic of the relations between the US and Niger and your country. This question asked by Michael Shoukin about Russia and its activities in the Sahel is related to this directly. So I would like to give the floor to Abdul Salam Bello. He's also Senior Fellow at the Africa Center Atlantic Council, and he's also the Executive Director of the Francophone Africa Group at the World Bank. So happy to give you the floor, Abdul.
Merci beaucoup.
very much, Mr. President. Be welcome to New York. It is an honor to have you here with us. We know that your agenda is very busy. To go directly to the subject on the perspective presented by Michael Shurker. So today you are in the United States. In a few months, the American government is going to welcome a summit between the United States and Africa. We would like to have your reflections on the analysis you make of the bilateral relationship between the United States and Africa, but especially on the development aspect. You gave your reflections on security. We would like to have your answers on security. And to conclude with the subject of the United States, what would be your expectations as a leader, as a president of the Niger and leader of the Sahel region? What are the expectations of the summit between the United States and African countries? The American policy, the African policy of the United States can be related along with the policy of cooperation with our country. Concerning this, the United States of America is one of the countries that has relatively consistent cooperation made of projects that are interested in diversified domains and that are put together through the MCC. Within this framework, the United States government has interested itself in sectors where they encouraged reforms that will have an enormous economic impact and that have been very useful because they have been implemented. The MCC has been very interested in fertilizers in Niger and has questioned the policy that had been implemented up to now. And I think that the fact of asking the state to disengage itself of the fertilizers trade is a good thing. It is true that unfortunately the implementation of that new policy coincided with the Ukrainian crisis and a certain number of factors that are exceptional, but it is actually a very good thing because we're sure that we will have in the future good quality fertilizers at a lower price than we're paying. The benefit of that reform will benefit our country. So the MCC also encouraged the services to maintain roads. That's an excellent reform. I very much appreciate the fact that a partner comes to look at economic activities of that type and brings judgment on the policies we implement and asks us to make reforms and put the principle of those reforms as a condition to implement investment for other projects. So that's what's happening with investments concerning irrigation, infrastructure construction, and the implementation of those reforms seems very beneficial for the country to me. Then after the United States intervened in agriculture, they intervene in the infrastructure construction, notably roads, with the regional MCCs that have forgo the construction of infrastructure that link Benin to Niger in order to integrate countries' economies which are actually complementary. The United States are interested in irrigation. They just rehabilitated a large
projet d'aménagement hydro-agricole
a large
dans la région de Kony,
hydro-agricultural project in the region of Kony, which is
booster la
going
production agricole justement
to
dans
help
cette zone.
agricultural production.
Ils s'intéressent à la
They
petite
are
irrigation
interested in small
également, ce qui est
irrigation
une bonne
also,
chose. Ils
which
viennent
is
de
a good
réaliser
thing.
une étude
They just
qui a mis en
made
œuvre,
a
qui
study
a mis en évidence
that
l'existence de
showed
grandes
the
quantités
existence
d'eau
of
qui
large
changent
quantities
tout
of water
dans les perspectives
that
du
changes
développement de
everything in
l'agriculture
the
au
development
Niger,
of
et
agriculture
ainsi de
in
suite.
Niger,
Donc,
and so on.
nous
So
sommes
we
satisfaits
are
de ce
satisfied
partenariat,
with this
mais évidemment,
partnership,
comme je
but
l'ai dit, à
of course,
propos
as I said
de la
concerning
sécurité,
security,
à chaque fois que nous
every
aurons l'occasion
time
de
we will
rencontrer
have
les
the
autorités
opportunity to
américaines,
meet the United
nous leur
States
demanderons
authorities, we
de
will
faire
ask
plus
them to
d'efforts
make
pour la
further
promotion de
efforts for the
l'économie d'un pays
promotion
comme le
of
Niger,
the economy
parce
of a
qu'en
country
effet,
like
la
Niger, because
stabilité des pays
stability
vulnérables
of
comme le
vulnerable
nôtre dans
countries
cet
like
espace du
ours
Sahel,
in this
tel que j'en avais
space of
parlé tout
Sahel,
à
as
l'heure,
I spoke
requiert
earlier,
des
requires
engagements encore plus soutenus
further
de la part de
engagements
certains des partenaires et les
from
plus
our
importants
partners,
d'abord,
and
comme
the
les
most
États-Unis.
important ones like the United States.
Merci beaucoup.
Alors, le sommet
Thank you very much.
Afrique
Now, the
États-Unis,
summit
c'est un
Africa-United
sommet où nous
States
aurons
is a
justement à
summit where
discuter
we
de deux
will
types de questions.
discuss
Vous
two
l'avez dit,
types of
les questions
issues.
sécuritaires,
The
les
security
États-Unis sont
issues,
la
the
plus grande
United
puissance
States
du
are
monde,
the
ont
biggest
des
world power.
capacités
They have the
aujourd'hui
capacity today
d'appréciation des
to
situations, mais aussi
appreciate
d'action
and evaluate
qui, si
situations,
elles sont
and
bien
they have
menées, peuvent conduire
they
à
can
des
also
résultats
act.
susceptibles de
They
faire
can
changer les
lead
choses.
actions
Nous aurons
that
besoin des
will
États-Unis
have
qu'ils
that will
se
change
concentrent
outcomes. So
sur
we need that the United States
les conflits à
concentrate
l'œuvre en
on the
Afrique,
conflicts taking
qu'ils les
place in
comprennent
Africa, that they understand
convenablement
them
et qu'ils agissent
appropriately,
en
and that they
conséquence de la
act
façon dont nous pourrions le
accordingly
comprendre
in a
ensemble.
way that we can
Quand je prends
understand together. When I
le trafic des armes et
I
le
talk
trafic
about
de drogue
weapons traffic or
dans le
drugs
Sahel
in
et
Sahel, and
que je sais
that I try,
le rôle néfaste que
and that I know
justement ces
the
trafics
disastrous
dans
role this traffics play
le terrorisme aujourd'hui, parce que le
terrorism
financement
today,
du
because the
terrorisme pour
financing of
l'essentiel
terrorism
provient
comes
justement de
from
ces trafics. Ces
those
trafics
that
qui sont
traffic.
simples, c'est des
Those
trafics
traffics are
pour ce qui
simple.
concerne la drogue en
Concerning
direction
drugs,
de la Libye, à partir
these
de laquelle
drugs that go
justement
to
cette
Libya, and
drogue
from there,
qui est le
these
cannabis ou le
drugs, whether
tramadol
it's
ou les drogues
cannabis or
dures, va
tramadol or
vers
harder
l'Europe et
drugs,
va
go
vers
to
l'Asie,
Europe and
ou que ce
Asia,
soit le trafic
or
des
whether
armes,
it's
ou
the
pour
weapons
l'essentiel,
traffic, but
c'est les armes
essentially
qui alimentent les
it's
foyers
weapons that feed
des guérillas
the guerrillas,
terroristes
the
dans le
terrorist
Sahel
guerrillas in
proviennent de
Sahel.
la
They
Libye.
come from Libya.
Nous avons quand même une
So we
configuration
have
qui n'est pas
a
compliquée
configuration that
et
is
nous
not very
avons de
complicated,
difficultés
and it is
à
difficult for
concevoir que,
us to
sachant cela, des
conceive,
pays
knowing
importants comme
that
les États-Unis
important
et toutes
countries
les
like the
autres
United
puissances
States and
ne
other
soient pas
powerful
capables
countries
aujourd'hui de
are not
mettre en
capable
œuvre
today
une
to
politique
put in
qui
place
mette
a
fin à ces
policy that
trafics-là, qui
ends
les
that
perturbe en tout
traffic.
cas, de façon à empêcher que
Makes it
l'argent
difficult, so that
qui
the
en découle
money
puisse alimenter le
that
terrorisme. Parce que
feeds
j'ai comme l'impression
terrorism is told. I
qu'aujourd'hui la
have the
communauté
impression that
internationale,
today the
de ce point de vue,
international
s'attaque
community
davantage aux
concerning
causes,
that
davantage aux effets qu'aux causes. Et il
is
est temps.
leading with the
Et
effects
c'est
and not
une
the
des
causes,
idées
and
que
it
je
is time, and it's one
défendrai
of the
toujours
ideas
face
that I will always
aux
defend
partenaires américains ainsi qu'aux
with
autres
the
pour
American
que
partners
nous
and others,
abordions de
in order
façon
for us
pertinente
to
la question de la lutte contre
treat
le terrorisme dans le
the
Sahel.
fight
Après,
against terrorism in Sahel.
évidemment, sur
Then,
le
of
plan
course,
économique,
on
il y a la
on
Goa,
economics,
il y a
there's sorry, Mr. President, Abdul is Nigerian also, so if I may, he is going to detail the different subjects concerning development, starting maybe by climate. Yes, Mr. President, sorry for the interruption. So now we're coming to the latest phase of preparation for COP27 that will take place in Egypt in November. You participated in COP15 in Abidjan in the Convention of the Fight Against Desertification. You also mentioned the agendas of Nigeria. Nigeria is also known for its resilience on climate change. We recently saw the impacts of the climate change with the degradation of soils, the certification, and the floods, recent inundations. You talked about security, and we also see a certain number of nexus between climate change and security in many places, and management of land and conflict. So the question we have here for you is, what are your expectations and what is your analysis of the climate agenda, and what are your expectations on negotiations, COP27 negotiations? Concerning climate change, the debate is an unequal debate, if I may say. The schema through which these issues are perceived and the answers that are formulated on the basis of postulates coming from those analyses are not in favor to the poor countries who are developing, which are the ones who suffer most of climate change. The truth is the vision that ends up by imposing itself is spotted it's false by looking at things from the viewpoint of developed countries. And all the engagements that have been taken on mitigation have not been held, and that's not so for the time being, once again, the fight is unequal. The engagements that are taken are engagements that come from discussions between the developed countries, and it is not something. It's not an open discussion that would consist in taking into consideration the perspectives and interests of everybody. We're going to Sharm el-Sheikh. We're going to make an evaluation, and I bet that we will see that things will not have evolved between Paris, Glasgow, and Sharm el-Sheikh. So we need that our interests are taken into consideration in the promotion of green energies. The agenda, as it has been set from measures that have been encouraged up to now, consists in penalizing us by declaring that certain sources of fossil energies are not compatible with what the COP is encouraging.
As well, I noticed that we have diverging interests. We have just been hit with a measure that is very strict because we have a potential for producing electricity from coal that we cannot exploit because simply there are no more companies that have access to the necessary credits so that they can invest in the promotion of mines that could have allowed us, enabled us to produce electricity. You see the debate that is happening on oil and all that. We are complaining about this situation, and we will remain complaining and feel discriminated against. And I feel that this debate for now is not the right debate. The engagement that we're undertaking do not necessarily allow us to face the situation of the world with all of its complexity, and even its engagement that are taken to not go over 1.5 degree of increase. It sems to be a problem anyway today. So I am someone who is relatively skeptic and the possibility that we might have to really all agree, because we have very divergent interests.
Abdul, please, you can ask another question and then we will conclude. Yes. I know Mr. President has a very tight agenda. A last question and a brief question.
Okay. Monsieur le Président, donc, merci beaucoup. Vous avez parlé de la question de l'énergie.
You spoke of the issue of energy, and this remains for an economy like Niger extremely important. So how do you see the evolution? You spoke of renewable energies in a country like Niger, and in particular in the rural areas where most of the population is found. The lowering of cost of production of energy, renewable energy, is very good news for our countries. It is going to be the salvaging, what will save us. You can see that as long as solar energy and renewable energies in general, as long as they were very expensive, we could not promote any industry or production of any of these energies. But with the lowering of the cost of this energy right now, we are able, in the middle of promoting these changes, and I am convinced that within the next few years we will have an acceleration of access to these energies, even for the rural population in a country like Niger. And so the fact that we do not need to invest in infrastructure for transportation of this electricity is going to give us the possibility of having small units that are fitted for the size of a village and that will answer the need to these villages and enable these populations, even in the most remote areas in a country as vast as ours, to have access to electricity. And this program that we are implementing is indeed the result of this philosophy today. That is that we have a little stream of luck here, and we want to take advantage of it.
I think this conversation is ending now. I would like to warmly thank Dr. Michael Shulkin, who spoke to you from Washington, D.C., and of course, Abdul Salam Bello, who shared a few thoughts with you on development. Mr. President, thank you. You are one of the strong men of this new Africa we like to see. You have succeeded in your first steps, and after Issoufou and the peaceful transition at the head of the state. And so now you are tackling a lot of challenges, from security to development issues in a key country for the African continent and the Sahel, of course. So a lot are expecting from you. Thank you. Good luck for your stay in New York at the UN General Assembly. After Dr. Mukwege, Atlantic Council continues to offer a high-level conversation series. So see you soon on our platforms. Thank you very much.